We've already presented the Nio ET7 to you in a detailed classic review, complete with a comprehensive driving report. Link is in the video description if you haven't seen it. Because today, and with that, welcome to a new episode of Simply Electric. We want to take the Nio ET7 to the highway. We want to check the consumption at 100, 120, 140 and 160 kilometers per hour. We will also do the charging test. This will be exciting since the Nio ET7 has two kinds of battery packs. One of them takes considerably longer to charge than the other. Let's find out what's installed here. Next, we'll have a detailed discussion with you about the exciting travel showdown, covering aspects like performance, navigation, and all essential elements for taking such a luxury travel limousine on memorable journeys. Yes, before we get started, could you please check if you're part of Your Electric community? We'd love it if you'd support us with a subscription. By ringing that little bell, you definitely won't miss out on watching the third video, wo wir diesen Genossen richtig auf Herz und Nieren testen, oder?
Yes, about 2,000 kilometers, I'd reckon.
Exactly, that means we're going on a big road trip to a car show. We'll take you along, of course, and travel over 2,000 kilometers with the Nio ET7. I'd say that's definitely a solid reason to consider signing up for a free subscription and naturally also to give us a little support in our ongoing work efforts. Now we'll start the consumption drive and charging check of the Nio ET7. We've officially set off with the Nio ET7, and naturally, we'd really like to have a conversation with you all about the initial setup and starting point. That means we're driving from Neustrelitz to the A20 motorway. This particular road serves as our dedicated test track, where we have tried out a wide variety of vehicles for you. And naturally, this allows us to make a comprehensive comparison later in the tables between the Nio ET7 and the other vehicles we have tested extensively. Yes, today we have 15 degrees according to the display. Kind of drizzly weather, typical end of October weather. Yes.
Autumn weather, you can feel it.
Precisely. Stefan had a closer look at what tire and wheel combinations we currently have on board here.
Sure, we've got a 19-inch tire on there, size 245 with a 50 profile.
In winter tires.
In winter, exactly.
This is also important because of the slightly increased rolling resistance. Yes, and then we have the ET7, which has two electric motors, one on the front axle, 180 kilowatts, 245 horsepower, and one on the rear axle with 300 kilowatts. 408 horsepower, bringing the total to an impressive 480 kilowatts, 653 horsepower system output with 850 newton meters of torque. However, we don't exactly want to push it too much when it comes to consumption. That's the reason why we're switching to Eco mode. In this setting, we've also lowered the suspension to enhance the vehicle's aerodynamic efficiency, which comes with a remarkable drag coefficient of 0.208, but we can round that up to 0.21. Wanted to fully capitalize on it and allow the car the opportunity to, operate and perform at its absolute best. Well, otherwise, of course, the air conditioning system is adjusted to maintain a cozy and pleasant 22 degrees here. Yeah, and furthermore, what else do we need to show for the Nio, the onboard computer? Yes, we have something special here. Therefore, we are unable to simply employ the usual method, as we have become accustomed to with our previously tested vehicles, by resetting the onboard computer every 20 kilometers. We always drive stints, so 20 kilometers at an average speed of 100, 120, 140, 160 kilometers per hour, because he only drives 10 kilometers or 100 kilometers on average. Displayed. We need to figure out the best possible way to manage this and give it a proper and thorough test run, since we usually only do 20-kilometer stints. Perhaps we'll complete 10-kilometer stints instead and subsequently divide the values by 2. I'm still somewhat unsure about it right now. We'll inform you once we're driving on the highway. Yeah, first we're heading to Neubrandenburg. That's around 20 kilometers or a good 20 kilometers from here. And here our plan is to reset the onboard computer for you. This is essentially so we can observe what readings it provides at the point where we enter Neubrandenburg after we have been leisurely cruising along the scenic country roads and meandering through the picturesque villages. We are just before Neubrandenburg and have now driven a decent stretch, about 20 kilometers, and we have exactly 20.8 kilometers here. The average consumption displayed for the last 10 kilometers is 20.5. Kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, that's okay now, right? For a 5.10 meter sedan? Yes. For an AWD?
Duke Forte.
653 horsepower, driven by not just one, but indeed two electric motors. Yes, it could perhaps go a little bit lower than that. Absolutely, I'd recommend we reset the onboard computer yet again, considering we'll be driving around 7 or 8 kilometers through New Brandenburg and will likely want to examine it later on. To see how the urban consumption figures develop, we've now driven through New Brandenburg and we've successfully covered a distance of 7.2 kilometers overall. Excellent fuel efficiency in the urban area here.
13.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers.
The Nio ET7, much like numerous other electric vehicles, clearly demonstrates that particularly in urban settings, it truly capitalizes on its strengths. Now, we are heading over to the highway. We'll check back in shortly on the highway to examine the Nio ET7's consumption at speeds of 100, 120, 140 and 160 kilometers per hour. By the way, it kicks off at 69,900 euros, completely equipped, even including a tow bar. I believe the sole option remaining to choose was somewhat 21-inch rims for 2.5K. And at the moment, all the way until the end of the year, Nio is providing special conditions. One aspect of this is 0% financing, which could indeed be intriguing for some individuals. And additionally, it seems that there is a discount of 15,000 euros for existing vehicles. This represents a significant 20% success fund. Price advantage is quite significant, so feel free to check if there's something interesting for you. You have to decide, and we shouldn't overlook that the 69,000 euros is without the battery. You can purchase the small 75 kilowatt hours battery for 12,000 euros or the large 100 kilowatt hours battery, which is installed in this car, for 21,000 euros, and you can rent it. I think that's also quite an interesting aspect. The large battery costs about 289 euros monthly, plus renting offers the swapping advantage. And I find swapping super exciting. Because Nio is currently the only manufacturer where you can do a battery swap in just about 5 minutes. So you basically swap the empty battery for a full one in about 5 minutes. In China, this happens every 1.8 seconds, by the way, and in Germany too. The expansion at key locations like the highways is apparently progressing quickly. I believe it's going to become really exciting in the near future. There are already more than 16 exchange stations, I think.
Certainly.
Because they have seemingly made an agreement in Asia with Geely, which encompasses brands such as Lotto, Smart, Volvo, Polestar, Xikra, and several others, suggesting the possibility that they might also extend their operations in China, and furthermore, probably battery swapping for us at some point.
Yes, it's moving forward, and if the whole thing really spreads over to Europe, then it will become really interesting.
So hopefully in the third video we'll have the opportunity to try it out and see if it's truly as cool as it sounds when you do a battery swap instead of spending something like half an hour or even 40 minutes waiting at the charging station.
That's exciting, especially how long it takes.
We have made it onto the A20 motorway and we're now driving in a northern direction, specifically towards the area of Greifswald-Stralsund. I have configured the adaptive cruise control of the Nio ET7 to maintain a steady pace at 100 kilometers per hour, and I will now proceed to reset the onboard computer together with you. So we can explore and determine over the course of the next 10 kilometers. How and in what way the consumption changes and evolves. It's beginning to drizzle a little bit here now, and this might indeed present an excellent opportunity to talk about the assistance systems with you once more. To make it clear, we aim to consistently maintain average speeds by driving at 100 kilometers per hour instead of just using cruise control, which could be slowed by traffic and thus lower our speed. But consistently 100 kilometers an hour, as many people still unfortunately found in the comments. Yes, indeed, the adaptive cruise control system is certainly included on board. The Nio vehicle features a suite of 33 sensors, including cameras, LiDAR, various kinds of radars, and also ultrasound sensors, all of which function together to screen its surroundings. This enables the car to maintain itself, as seen now, in a semi-autonomous manner in the precise center of the lane. When a speed alteration is anticipated, it effectively delivers the appropriate and necessary signal. And you need to confirm the new speed here using the button on the multifunction steering wheel. Only then does he start adjusting to the new speed. He currently doesn't have any kind of predictive solution where he would automatically start driving 100 as soon as there's a 100 sign ahead. That might be seen as an improvement step for Nio too. We indeed know that kind of feature from cars by the Volkswagen Group, BMW and Mercedes-Benz. And I believe we've also had the chance to experience it with Renault and other manufacturers. That's obviously mega brilliant because it can, I truly believe, provide us with maximum support and comfort during those really long and sometimes tiring journeys. By now, we've had quite a few experiences with the Nio ET7 here and can confidently affirm that it is very solid.
Yes, it really holds the line well. Even with slightly sharper curves, it handles them smoothly and stays in the middle.
And particularly when we take a closer look at the driver information display, you'll definitely notice that it very accurately presents everything occurring in the surrounding environment in almost real time. So when a car speeds by, you can see it clearly on the display, which I think truly enhances the overall feeling that all these 33 sensors really do a top job.
Right.
I'm confident that Nio has forward-thinking and innovative technology. Like other major industry players, their goal is to secure more approvals, allowing vehicles to transition smoothly from semi-autonomous to fully autonomous, aligning with broader trends focused on innovation and advancements. And I could imagine that Nio is also a pretty good way.
Sure.
We have driven a distance of 10 kilometers and we're currently examining the consumption value. Our consumption for the first 10 kilometers was recorded at 19.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Yes, Stefan. And I will now leave the consumption value here for another 10 kilometers, then read after 20 kilometers, just like we always do, then kind of take the 10 kilometer value from this onboard computer, and Stefan will then basically write down both values, divide them by 2, and that will be, if you think about it, our blended average value, correct? Otherwise, I believe, considering transparency and fairness toward other tested vehicles we've examined, there truly isn't another feasible way to go about it, don't you think? Right. Feel free to share your opinion in the comments. It's always tricky when, like we often have and had with BYD, they simply don't have an onboard computer.
And then we had to start using the formula.
Oh my god, we've somehow managed to convert the state of charge into kilowatt hours by percentage right here. Truly amazing. And yes, if you then have an onboard computer that goes ahead and makes its own arbitrary decisions, that's obviously extremely suboptimal too. One really cool feature is that with Nio you have the ability to provide feedback via voice commands. That means you basically speak to Nomi, the voice assistant, indicating that you would like to make some suggestions for improvements, and then these ideas can be effectively sent to the Nio Central in a manner of speaking. And I know from Nio drivers that Nio is one of the few manufacturers like the big American supercar electric builder that regularly provides updates. Apparently Nio is supposed to provide updates approximately every 2 to 4 weeks. And on the other hand, they probably also realize that improvement suggestions from the Nio drivers are just also become integrated into the Nio's programming system through the required periodic software updates. I find that cool.
I think that's good. It's directly with the customer. Hearing the feedback, I find it awesome.
At Nio, there is an opportunity to participate in an advisory board, both as an enthusiastic driver and it appears some journalists are able to join as well. They meet twice each year to discuss in depth what is effective, what isn't working, and various related topics. And then make improvement suggestions again.
All is okay.
I think Nio is very, very progressive, and it's actually a shame that maybe it hasn't been publicly recognized so much yet. We have completed a journey of approximately 20.2 kilometers so far, and the system is currently indicating an average energy consumption of 23.5 kilowatt hours for each 100 kilometers that we have traveled. 19.5 was the first value, divided by 2, Stefan calculated. Stefan made another mistake in the calculator. Just enter it again.
It's adding 19.5 to
23.5 degrees or whatever the units might be. Divided into 2 equally sized portions, in its essence split by 2.
So we have 21.5.
So what we effectively have at this point is an average figure of 21.5 kilowatt hours for every 100 kilometers, determined from 2 consecutive 10-kilometer sections. Absolutely, that is certainly not an insignificant amount for a sedan, particularly when taking into account that it has a drag coefficient which has been rounded up to 0.21. I'm somewhat surprised at the moment. We're currently driving in eco mode. Sure, there was a little rain earlier, but honestly, it really wasn't that significant or impactful in any meaningful way. Certainly, I have set the adaptive cruise control to 120 kilometers per hour. I'll go ahead and double check the onboard system just to be absolutely sure. Computer, I'll reset it so that we can then present to you the next 10-kilometer values twice more and show you again. Now the rain has finally disappeared and the sun has come out to brighten the day. How consumption in the Nio ET7 changes when driving at around 120 kilometers per hour. A quality electric car in the year 2024 not only features excellent route planning capabilities, but it is also essential to have robust charging planning integrated into the system right from the start. And ideally, of course, it includes an intuitive voice control system that enables users to easily input destinations with a high degree of accuracy using spoken commands. Let's test that by saying, "Hey Nomi, drive us to Munich to the Victualienmarkt aisles. I find the..."
Options are available from which you can choose.
In my humble opinion, he successfully manages to create an impressively solid and well thought out route. And then you have the option to add a charging plan to your route planning. Here you can see very nicely that near Leipzig, namely Schkeuditz, you might know it from the Schkeuditzer Kreuz at the Leipzig airport, then also the swapping station now is from Nio, where you then have the highly convenient opportunity to schedule and arrange your booking well ahead of time for a battery swap. And if you were to initiate it there, then as you just observed, it would basically be adequate and sufficient to make the entire journey to Munich with just a single battery swap. Well, that's really quite a cool system, yeah. But let's assume, according to the manufacturer, it takes 5 minutes. Let's just double it to 10 minutes because we might take a bathroom break or something. Then it effectively transforms into a rather comparably intriguing shoe.
Then you're actually getting really close to a simple fuel stop.
Exactly, I've cancelled it now. Here you can see quite clearly how incredibly well you can zoom in very effectively and precisely into the details. He predicts the battery change process will take about 7 minutes, and you can clearly observe that top-notch processors are exceptionally well integrated. This ensures that performance stays not just smooth, but also highly efficient throughout the entire operation. Well, I have to say that it's a cool system, which then really allows you to perform tasks accordingly and efficiently. Furthermore, you also have the option to set filters for charging planning accordingly, so that you say, well, it should only use 150 kilowatts chargers when there is no swapping station available. He should just, stop at all available locations where you can charge conveniently with the new charging card or app. Or, for example, you can say, hey, if you are an Ionity power charger, I believe there's currently a base fee of about 39 cents. Then you can also choose Ionity, where we really do love to charge. Or maybe even Allego or Michel Recharge. I think that's incredibly well executed, quite honestly. And that is also a significant difference, I must say, especially when compared to an American supercar manufacturer. Because here you can basically still decide for yourself how you charge, where you charge, when you charge, and are not automatically controlled by some specific network. So I have to say, Nio, thumbs up, I really like it a lot. Now I have explained the navigation, routing, and charging plan system to you in such detail, and we've just smoothly gone over the 10 kilometers here, without even realizing how fast time has passed. That means we are currently at 13 kilometers with an average energy consumption level. On the last 10 kilometers from 7,5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, we will now drive another 10 kilometers, that is up to 23 kilometers with you. This time, of course, we need to be careful not to miss that value. Let's take a look, dividing by 2 once more to determine what the average consumption from both readings turns out to be. It's 27.5, not 17.5. Stay positive, I have no idea how I thought of 17.5.
It's often like that.
Sorry folks, the first value is 27.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. I'm sorry for my speech slip-up. What you've got with the Nio ET7 is additionally an active lane-changing feature. That means the Nio ET7 provides assistance when you change lanes. This particular feature is really quite interesting and undeniably cool. That's something we're familiar with from lane change assistance, for example, from the likes of Kia or Mercedes, as well as from Volkswagen. That's just a cool story because I basically put on the blinker. It also shows it nicely here on the display screen. Then, in a semi-autonomous way, with my hands just lightly resting on the steering wheel, it actively and independently proceeds to execute the lane change all on its own. I think Nio is definitely a pioneer in that area too. If they were to develop a predictive solution,
then we would be genuinely happy.
yes. Now we've been attentive. We've traveled a distance of 23 kilometers and observed a consumption of 32.4 kilowatt hours for every 100 kilometers on the last stretch. 10 kilometers. We add that to the previous value and arrive at an average value material of
30. So what exactly do we honestly have to say about that?
So, with a limousine consuming 30 kilowatt hours for every 100 kilometers with a drag coefficient of 0.21, that's truly quite intense and remarkable. If we take another look again, 93% of the energy is used for driving, 1% is devoted to assistance systems, 3% is allocated for passenger comfort, likely involving the use of the heat pump for heating, and 3% is designated for various other uses. Then it really does surprise me quite a bit. It feels like something we haven't come across before, doesn't it?
I'm curious to see where they always end up.
I've set the adaptive cruise control to 140 kilometers per hour, as you can see. We want to drive continuously at 140 kilometers per hour for the next 10 and then another 10 kilometers, maintaining an average speed of 140 kilometers per hour. The onboard computer is reset. Now I'm really curious to see where the consumption figures for the Nio ET7 are going to develop from here. We have traveled a distance of 10.2 kilometers, and throughout this journey we observed an energy consumption rate of 36.6 kilowatt hours. Yes, that's unmistakably not a small amount indeed. I've never noticed such consumption occurring at a speed of 140 kilometers per hour. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't experienced that either. That's really tough.
Absolutely, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the second 10 kilometers will have in store for us. Let's just wait and discover how everything pans out. Now it's really starting to rain nicely here, yes?
Is also nice.
We are currently at 21.5 kilometers, and I had to briefly reduce my speed a little bit at a daytime construction site. That's why we read it. Only at 21.8 kilometers, because only at 11.8 kilometers did we have a solid value of 140 again. Certainly 37.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers is the second value we have. Stefan enters this number into our calculator and divides the two values by 2. And what value do we have?
We have a total number of 37, correct?
37 kilowatt hours consumed at an impressive average speed of 140 kilometers per hour. Wow, that's really quite something incredible. Holy moly, can you even believe it? Think we've not seen that before, right?
I just don't understand how that can happen. I mean, the drag coefficient is good. It's calm here. So it's not like we're riding against the wind now. Hey, we somehow lack that, so...
Guys, so I firmly believe even the Audi Q8 e-tron during the winter season, you know? I believe next to those Swedish SUVs, so our guarantee for high... I believe he didn't quite manage the hourly consumption either. Check the chart for that.
I personally find it quite bad.
And once more, we're talking about a sedan with a drag coefficient of 0.208. So somehow, I must tell you, now that the rain has finally stopped, I'm feeling genuinely a bit confused. I'm looking forward to your comments on what could be causing this. Look, I've activated Sport Plus.
Try a cool trick. It means...
Let's tap into the 653 horsepower available here and accelerate our way out from a speed of 140 kilometers per hour. That's undeniably thrilling because we've got a top speed capability of 200 kilometers per hour, a speed that is reached in no time but also just cannot be surpassed by this setup. Yeah, it's 200 kilometers per hour, if I'm not mistaken on that one. Yeah, just look at me now. I'm actually laughing out loud. Yeah, so I think that's kind of uncool, right? Yeah, look, the border rope is right here as well. Within the current consumption, and then it was intentionally increased.
That sure was something.
Yes, friends, but if we're being honest, owning a 653 horsepower beast like the Nio ET7 makes you definitely want to drive it at 200 kilometers per hour or really floor it to unleash its potential, right? Absolutely.
Sure, that builds up, but with winter power, we'll definitely use it sometime.
Then we can also demonstrate what we've got, right? Yeah, like I mentioned before, you can definitely show what you've got, but it just won't hold on for a long time. It doesn't take long exactly. We've switched back to EQO, driving now at 160 kilometers per hour, and I'm going to reset the onboard computer. I have to manually drive at 160 kilometers per hour now, so I need a steady foot for that. Stefan, that I can actually manage it here in the Nio ET7 because the... oh, well, it works. The adaptive cruise control, it was set at 160 kilometers per hour. Yeah, look, yeah, see, it works.
That is all quite helpful.
You don't need to be so biased. No!
Certainly not.
I just assumed it wouldn't work, but it actually does, so Nio really can.
Currently, I have different fears.
Use?
That we can indeed actually manage to finally reach the store.
The sound system is really quite impressive, because it's absolutely crucial, particularly when you're embarking on long journeys in a Nio, that you have fantastic sound quality to enjoy, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
The bass undeniably hits really hard though. Yes, but it absolutely makes for a lot of fun. We have 23 Dolby Atmos speakers, kind of like a 7.4.1 system. And it also optimizes and detects where people are sitting and then automatically adjusts the sound profile if you want it to.
Absolutely, but it is definitely a whole lot of fun to use.
Absolutely. We covered a distance of 10 kilometers. You all can see it here very, very nicely. And we've got our first set of preliminary results, which show 36.5 kilowatt hours used per 100 kilometers traveled. And with that, we somehow have the same value as we do at 140 kilometers per hour.
Okay, maybe the faster we go, the better later.
Yes, it could potentially also be the case that we encountered a little bit of headwind some time ago. We basically made a U-turn heading in the opposite direction, got a little tailwind. That naturally reflects a bit on the consumption. That's why it's really good that we're about to include the second 10 kilometers. Because we have some bends here and don't always go in the same direction. Thus, it is reasonable for us to expect that crosswinds could potentially occur. So considering that, it's never completely windless in Germany, is it?
No, not really.
So, not often back at all? We have also driven the next set of 10 kilometers. Here with the Nio ET7, we have now covered a distance of precisely 21.4 kilometers. We have successfully achieved an average consumption rate amounting to 35.6 kilowatt hours for every 100 kilometers that we have traveled. Yes, that has definitely decreased significantly. And there is an average value, Stefan.
From an average reading of 36.05 overall.
Yeah, he definitely drove a bit lower at 160 on average than at 140. We have actually experienced that once before already.
We had that once before, yes.
The conditions today might potentially let the wind have a noticeable impact on things. But that's the great thing about our consumption pass. We're not conducting tests, as we're not actual laboratories.
We also don't tape any joints or anything like that to achieve the best values.
Exactly. We also don't drive 10 kilometers in one direction, make a U-turn, and then drive 10 kilometers in the other direction, because we just want to show you real consumption from everyday life. By setting out on a defined route where you also effectively manage to completely cover a full distance of 10 kilometers. Just overtakes. I leisurely navigate a gigantic truck down the bustling highway, even though he suddenly cuts right in front of me. From Deutsche Post, that's truly not okay either. Or he just tells himself, I'm so heavy and so... Well, long story short, feel free to check out the comparison tables and take a look at the values there. Fortunately, we are also making a third video. Then with the journey of approximately 2,000 kilometers to Zurich and then back, we will have yet another important value to analyze and discuss in greater detail. We'll drive at the suggested speed about 130 kilometers per hour. That should be our main target for the trip, and then we'll achieve a consumption value at 130 kilometers per hour over more than 2,000 kilometers.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's take a look.
So, take a look at the tables for comparison and don't hesitate to write down your thoughts or opinions in the comments section below. Let's dive into the topic of travel comfort within the Nio ET7. We are equipped with a dependable tool for evaluation that has shown its worth exceptionally well over the past 4.5 years, specifically Stefan's very own barometer, which never fails to deliver accurate insights. Stefan, what's on the agenda for today?
Yeah, so I'm sitting here comfortably as always. Personally, I think I might have preferred a bit more supportive cushioning for my thighs and some extra lateral support. Doesn't really need to be in the vehicle, I think, because it's more geared towards comfort, even though it has 650 horsepower. Otherwise, you sit here very well, very comfortably, and you can adjust the seats nicely. The only sticking point is that they don't recline quite as far back as one might like. For me, this is sufficient, but someone with longer legs might encounter an issue. For that, you have a bit more space in the back. As for the suspension, regarding comfort, I like it. It's also comfortable.
In the Nio ET7, I definitely have to agree with Stefan's seat-of-the-pants meter. They've truly achieved something remarkable with the air suspension system. It's not a plush sedan like the ones we might recognize from luxurious American or even prestigious German limousines. Instead, it's beautifully tuned for that distinctive European-style firm yet comfortable ride. But with its wheelbase of 3.06 meters combined with the air suspension, I have to say it offers a nice travel comfort. It's a smooth cruiser. You don't feel every bump, every ridge, every pothole, or every groove directly in the car. And when it appears like just a moment ago, it's short and crisp. It doesn't bounce or cushion too much, ensuring the ride remains stable. Just like we sometimes know from air suspension, I think it's a very modern, insane way to drive the car.
Indeed.
What is hopefully also modern and absolutely mind-blowing in its innovation is, of course, the charging power. Nio has currently equipped the ET7 with not just one, but rather two distinct types of battery chemistries. The first generation of batteries charges with approximately 125 kilowatts, taking it from 10 to 80% in just 40 minutes. Meanwhile, the newer battery chemistry, which is found in some vehicles or can alternatively be accessed via swapping, so if you've basically rented the battery or the car. Like a subscription, then you can use the swap station. When you do a swap, you either receive the newer or the older generation of the battery. With the newer generation, we are essentially able to charge at up to 180 kilowatts peak, and then the time it takes to charge from 10 to 80% with the 100 kilowatt hour battery, of which we can use 90% net, so 90 kilowatt hours. Then reduced to about 30 minutes. That would be really cool. Yeah.
Let's see what we've just installed here.
So, let's all keep our fingers firmly crossed for Stefan. We've carefully set the final destination to the Ionity charging station located at the Deminer Land Rest area. Up to this point, even with the battery heating system turned on, it really hasn't been put to use yet. So you can see this displayed here, battery heating while driving. It also gives an explanation of how it accordingly. While on the road and so forth, the battery heating is used for preheating. However, it might not even be necessary due to our extensive experience with driving electric cars, suggesting that the battery could already be well within the optimal temperature range. Yes?
Or noticed.
We'll find out at the charging station at the latest. I also love how it shows you, take a look, with how many percent state of charge you'll eventually arrive. Not every electric car does that. No, with some, you just have to guess. We have arrived at the Deminer Land rest stop right here with our Nio ET7. And currently, what we want to do is charge it from 10 up to 80% together with all of you. That's the benefit when you arrive with 10% state of charge. Right here, you can see the reverse camera displayed very clearly and quite nicely once again. That's a fantastic feature, isn't it? With the standard views as well as the impressive 3D view included. It's really quite well executed and designed. I'll show you that again here. Nice also in the three-dimensionality. That worked somehow. Why isn't it doing it now? Doesn't want to, huh?
He'll be it.
Yeah, but here you can see again very, very nicely that you can also look at these flanks because of the wheels. But I would say, let's plug in now and charge the ET7 from 10 to 80%. I am really quite curious to discover what the resulting time value will end up being. 10% state of charge. He is now gradually but steadily building up the charging peak here with his 400-volt system. Yes, we absolutely always love to take advantage of our free kilometers from InCharge for charging purposes. InCharge is a provider that allows you to, for instance, earn miles through online shopping activities. You can rate charging stations, you can participate in community challenges, and that's how we succeeded. Already covering more than 40,000 kilometers at no cost. If you're curious about how you might want to participate too, feel free to take a look in the video description. I included a link to InCharge for you. Let's see where it stands now, Stefan. It's already at 115 kW and is now increasing to 120 kW. This likely suggests that it's using the older battery pack, wouldn't you say? That suggests we'll probably end up charging here for around 40 minutes or so.
So nice.
Yes, 6 minutes have passed. We're already at 22% state of charge. It's fluctuating here with 123, 124 kilowatts. In these 6 minutes, we've successfully added a good 11 kilowatt hours. That's equivalent to about 50 kilometers if we consider the consumption value at 100. And yes, there's still room for improvement. NIO recognized that and introduced a new battery chemistry for the large battery pack so that when you have the new cell chemistry, then also charge in 30 minutes with up to 180 kilowatt. We've got the older chemistry. And there are pros and cons with battery swapping, you know, because imagine you now have a new car with the new battery chemistry and you can charge the Nio extremely fast and then swap it and simply get the old one and then swap it and get the old battery chemistry, which is somehow suboptimal because there was no choice saying I want old or new because everyone would take new, right, when swapping anyway. Well, feel free to write in the comments how you see it when you rent a battery like that, maybe subscribe to the car, and then through such a battery exchange, then maybe the older cell chemistry and slowly what you get in the plan, whether you would care and you say, well, sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're unlucky in life, or to be honest, we're spending 69,900 euros on the base here, so you can already expect to be able to use the faster technology permanently. So, I'm really curious to hear your opinion. The loading time is also the perfect opportunity to take a closer look around the Nio ET7 with you. I find it has a beautiful, modern and progressive appearance, purely designed for electric use. Limousine we have with a drag coefficient of 0.208, so also good. Aerodynamics. Here we have LED headlights, dual, meaning also with high and low beam function, unfortunately not yet matrix. Matrices are used in the recently introduced Nio models like the EL6, which we showed you, or the Nio EL8. The Nio EL8 is coming to us in December, so there too, you'll be kept up to date with us at Nio. Here you can see again very, very nicely the 19-inch wheels of the winter tires. And yes, actually for a 5.10 meter limousine, it's a good value for money.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
Especially considering that there currently appears to be a discount of up to 15,000 euros available for existing vehicles until the end of the year 2024, or even a 0% financing option available. Personally, I really appreciate this. Small modern look, as it's not as overly pompous, doesn't flaunt itself like some other luxury top-class limousines tend to do, and it pretty much features the latest technology of the year on board, except when it comes to the charging capabilities, to be completely honest. It's kind of trailing behind the trends there. Yeah. Yes, the same thought might apply regarding the headroom, some might consider, because with 363 liters and the back seat not being foldable. Of course, that's a certain limitation to consider. That's perhaps one reason why Nio thought, hey, let's make the tow hitch a standard feature, which offers a capacity of up to 2 tons for brake trailer load and up to 100 kilograms of tongue weight, so that you might probably, when traveling with 4 adults or 2 older children, also consider attaching an additional trunk box onto the tow hitch for extra storage, to then add an extra 300 to 400 liters of space, because I don't have roof load here on the Nio ET7 found. Yes, let's see how further it is. We've now taken you around the car. After 10 minutes, the vehicle is now at 31% state of charge, has recharged 19.1 kilowatt hours, and is just hanging around at approximately 117 kilowatts. We have always criticized the American supercar manufacturer for exactly that. We have criticized the vehicles from the Volkswagen Group for this reason as well. And naturally, we also offer constructive criticism for the Nio ET7 because Volkswagen models like the ID.4, ID.5, or ID.3. So certain models from the VW group then also got more charging power through updates, and I would wish that for the older battery chemistry that maybe Nio could make some adjustments again. Let's be honest, with such a great luxury sedan, just idling around here for about 40-45 minutes, I find that kind of strange, don't you?
Yeah, especially in rain and wind, right? So,
Because, I mean, the Corsa driver next to us might think, hey, I'm driving a Corsa, which costs a quarter of a Nio, symbolically, with a discount, or back then with the incentive. 30 minutes in, I got 10.8, right? Yes.
okay.
50% after 19 minutes. We have recharged 35.6 kilowatt hours, but we're still fiddling around with 94 kW here. Oh, Nio, man, Stefan and I were seriously considering how we could effectively and usefully spend our time during such a long charging break. First of all, the bike display here very nicely shows graphically where we are. 64% charged, and right now it's charging at 82 kilowatts. And yes, we've really indulged ourselves with not just the seat heating, but also seat ventilation and a relaxing massage, while also testing out the cat pawing feature.
Cat pawing, precisely.
What do you say to that?
Oh yes, it's quite nice, don't you think?
By the way, the Nio ET7 includes luxurious seat heating, ventilation, and massage features on all 4 of the main seats, both at the front and at the back. Afterward, you can also opt to switch to relax mode right here. What exactly that does, I honestly don't know yet. It's definitely finished in the back. I haven't found out what it is yet, and it's also really cool. Today we're experimenting with the scent of Explore 1. It's rather lovely. Wouldn't you agree with that, right?
3 scent vials that you somehow attach under the middle console, right? Well,
In the review and test drive, it was heaven.
yes, right.
And on our road trip, covering a distance of 2,000 kilometers to Otto Zurich in Zurich, Switzerland, we are going to take Solar One with us.
Why not?
Then we can also tell the viewers how the 3 scents work.
Sure.
What's also possible, typically Asian, is of course karaoke here in the Nio ET7. From 10 to 80% accomplished in just over 40 minutes. We've already managed to almost charge up 64 full kilowatt hours. During this period, and yes indeed,
Flex Q.
absolutely, but I somehow feel it's quite really kind of a bit too flimsy, to be honest, overall.
Yeah, long.
Maybe just press down on the gas pedal a little bit more?
Sure.
We've hit the road again, and so many of you mention, oh man, Ollie, we absolutely love cruising at roughly 100 kilometers per hour. 130 kilometers per hour? Can you also measure the fuel consumption? Yes, we can. We have set the adaptive cruise control to 130 kilometers per hour. Now we're resetting the onboard computer and want to take a look with you at the next 10 kilometers to see what the Nio ET7 consumes here on the Autobahn A20 rest area Damenmine land, heading south towards Berlin over the next 10 kilometers at an average speed of 130 kilometers per hour. And we also have the consumption value for you when driving at a constant speed of 130 kilometers per hour. We covered a distance of 10.4 kilometers, with the onboard computer calculating the energy consumption to be 30 kilowatt hours for every 100 kilometers over the most recent 10 kilometers of our journey. So I believe that we've now very thoroughly taken into account and carefully considered all of the various speeds for you. And with that, let's move on to the further and second interim conclusion after the review, test drive and now consumption drive with charging check. Yes, the Nio ET7 essentially reinforces the overall impression that you can travel comfortably yet firmly on this journey. Its suspension is very, very well tuned, and along with the seats and seating comfort, I believe it will also be enjoyable on longer journeys, especially with features like seat massage, seat heating, and in summer, seat ventilation, which are available on all 4 seating places. Then I think it's really a great support. Yeah, you all noticed the consumption yourselves, and it was definitely a bit influenced by the varying winds today. We're not just heading in one single direction. On our test track, we actually have a route going north, then northwest, continuing all the way to the west, and then looping back again. Then at the 160 km/h value heading east, southeast, and then south. That's how it's correctly described, I believe, and that's just everyday life, that's nature, and not some WLTP value that comes from a lab or from some closed-off test track. But like you and I, they determine such consumption values by simply driving 10 or 20 kilometers with such an electric car. Yes, charging check, as I've mentioned already, I'm just a bit Disappointed. I think that NIO, if they wanted, could probably provide more charging power through software as well. In the end, it's always a gamble perhaps on the battery and the longevity of the battery, what each manufacturer is then willing to offer. NIO offers a 5-year warranty up to 150,000 kilometers, and for battery and drivetrain, 8 years up to 160,000 kilometers. And of course, you naturally don't want to provoke warranty claims by perhaps charging too quickly.
No, I genuinely don't want to.
I believe it will become even more intriguing in the upcoming third video, where we will conduct an extensive endurance test and aim to cover over 2,000 kilometers within just 2 or 3 days with the Nio ET7, all while having you along for the journey. I think this will be exciting because we'll be able to draw our final conclusion afterwards, and then I believe share our experiences with the ET7 over several thousand kilometers. And with that, we've come to the conclusion of today's video. I really hope you enjoyed watching it. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up. Also, make sure to check if you're part of the Einfach Electric community and if you've hit the notification bell. Both of these are completely free, and then you'll receive a notification when the third video featuring the endurance test spanning more than 2,000 kilometers becomes available online. Thank you for watching, stay healthy, and see you soon. You, Stefan. If you have such a good drag coefficient of 0.208, then when you compare it with the Mercedes EQS, which has a 0.200, I actually thought we'd notice some better efficiency. Yeah.
Definitely.
Because with our EQS values, it was already a bit lower.
Sure, clear.
I'm really not certain we can attribute all of this just to the wind, weather, and such things.
Let's see.